Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Donnelly and I am the Physical Activity Coordinator for the CDC REACH project housed in Eastern Michigan University's Center for Health Disparities, Innovations, and Studies. Today I'm going to be going over a quick tutorial on how to complete a walk audit using the AARP Walk Audit Toolkit. To begin, I'll go over the time commitment and materials required to complete an audit using this toolkit, and then I will actually be completing an audit myself to give you a more in-depth look at how this toolkit works. I'll provide some contact information in the description below as well as at the end of this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. And with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. When you receive your AARP Walk Audit Toolkit, the first thing you should do is review the entire document. 3 pages you should pay close attention to are pages 3, 4, and 5. Page 3 covers the purpose of walk audits as well as the time commitment this toolkit requires. You should plan on spending 1 hour completing this walk audit. This should provide you enough time to complete the route, summarize your observations, and gather all of the photos you captured during the audit. Page 4 details the materials that you will need in order to complete the audit. A map of the route you are auditing will be provided to you with your AARP Walk Audit Toolkit. When conducting the audit, make sure you bring assignments 1 through 6 with you, as well as a pen or pencil, since you will be filling out the document along your route. You may also consider bringing a clipboard or notebook to make writing on the go easier. You will also want to make sure that you're comfortable. Wear good walking shoes, comfortable weather-appropriate clothing, make sure you bring a water bottle, and of course, don't forget your mask at home. Page 5 reviews some of the things you should be looking for while completing the audit. Things you observe that make walking more enjoyable or difficult should be photographed and documented in the appropriate assignment. Things to pay close attention to on your route include crossing signals, sidewalks, turning lanes, and curb cuts. Now that we have reviewed some important aspects of the toolkit, I'm going to complete a walk audit of a common route in Ypsilanti, Michigan from Riverside Park to the downtown public library. Before starting my route, I made sure to review all of the assignments so I would know what to be looking for and filled out page 6 of the toolkit to become more familiar with my route. As I started my route north from the park heading towards Cross Street, I approached a parking lot and noticed that the walking path here ended. I would have to walk through the parking lot to return to the sidewalk. So I paused to take a photo and documented this in assignment 2. When I made it to the other side of the parking lot, I noticed that there was a lot of loose gravel along this path. I stopped to take a photo since this is something that could be a hazard for people with different physical abilities or dangerous for children playing in the park. I documented this in assignment 2 and continued on the route. Not too long after my initial pause on this pathway, I stopped again to take this photo of the pathway being overgrown by grass. This could be an issue for people with different physical abilities or parents with small children in strollers. I again documented this in assignment 2. As I got closer to the entrance of the park, I realized that there was a staircase that I thought I should check out. It was in good condition, so I took a photo and then continued along the flat path to see if that was in similar condition. Once I exited the park, I took a moment to observe the entrance or exit to see if cars were slowing down as they were approaching the sidewalk. Unfortunately, I saw a number of cars leave the park rather quickly without looking for people on the sidewalk or street. Before I continued on my route, I documented this in assignment 3. Just outside the park, I came across a bus stop that I wanted to take note of since it seemed a little out of place. There was no path leading from the sidewalk to the curb, which could make it difficult for people getting on or off the bus. There was also no shelter or lighting, so I went ahead and documented all of this information and the bus stop's location in Assignment 5. When I came to the corner of Cross Street and Huron, I took a few minutes to observe the intersection. I noticed that the curb cuts were not textured, so I made note of this in Assignment 2. I also noticed a lot of cars pulling into the crosswalk rather than stopping behind it. I made sure to document this in Assignment 3. As I continued south on Huron Street, I took note of how fast cars were traveling and if any drivers seemed distracted, so I could include that information in Assignment 4. I also stopped to take a picture of the buffer in between the sidewalk and road. It was very thin in this area, and it made walking a little uncomfortable since traffic was moving so quickly. This information was recorded in Assignment 2. As I continued down Huron Street, I came across something I had never noticed before but really liked. There was a buffer between the sidewalk and road that was raised. It made it seem like I was further away from traffic and it felt very safe. There wasn't anywhere to document this, so I took a picture and wrote it down on one of the note pages provided in the toolkit. Further down Huron, I came across another thing I wanted to document. It seemed to be a sign that had been hit by a car. I felt like this could be a safety concern, so I made note of it in Assignment 4 in the Other Issues and Observations section. Entering the downtown area, the sidewalks got much larger. It made walking through this area very pleasant. There was trees, bike racks, lighting, and trash cans. I captured a photo and took note of this on one of the extra pages in the toolkit. Another thing I noticed upon entering the downtown area was that there was an increasing amount of cracks in the sidewalk. I took a photo of this and documented this information in Assignment 2. I am now approaching the intersection of Michigan Avenue and Huron. Prior to starting this audit, I decided that I wanted to observe this intersection more closely since it was the busiest intersection along the route. When I arrived here, I started to survey the built environment, and noticed that there was a push-to-walk button for crossing Michigan Ave, but not Huron. I recorded this in assignment 1. I also noticed that there was a median on Michigan Avenue, but it was street level, so it didn't offer much comfort to pedestrians that could be stuck there. This was also recorded in assignment 1. Another thing I noticed during my observation of this intersection was that there is a double right-hand turn lane from Michigan Ave onto Huron Street, which is a one-way. I felt like this could be dangerous for pedestrians trying to cross the street, so I took note of it in the other issues and observations section of assignment 1. I continued the rest of my observation for roughly 20 to 30 minutes, and then completed assignment 1, both pages 7 and 8, before continuing my route. To continue on my route, I now needed to cross Huron Street. You can see cars from both turn lanes on Michigan Avenue whizzing by. I'm not sure if drivers didn't see me or if they just were being impatient. Either way, I made sure to document this experience in the additional observations section of assignment 1. As I walked along Michigan Avenue, I took note of how wide the sidewalks were as well as the lighting and trees. It was a very inviting place to walk. When I came to the intersection of Michigan Avenue and Washington, I stopped to take a few pictures and write down a note about how much I liked the street being shut down. The street really isn't used by cars even when it's open, so turning it into a pedestrian plaza would be awesome. I also noticed that the curb cuts were not textured though, so I made sure to document that in assignment 2. As I waited to cross Michigan Avenue at Washington, I noticed that there was again only a push-to-walk signal to cross Michigan Ave and not Washington. This wasn't an issue since the road is closed, but when it reopens, this could become a problem. I also took a photo of the crosswalk. It was clearly marked and set further in front of traffic, which I thought was nice and also safe. Once I got across Michigan Avenue and continued walking towards the library, I noticed that some of the restaurant patios were pushing pedestrians really close to the street. This is something I documented in assignment 2. When I made it to the end of my route, I took some time to take a couple of photos of things I liked in the area. There was a park bench around a fountain where I sat and completed assignment 6 and jotted down more notes that I thought would be helpful to include in the toolkit. Thank you for watching this tutorial. I hope you find it helpful. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us using the contact information on the screen or what is provided in the description below.